Hello, welcome back to the DriveTribe Podcast. Thank you ever so much for listening. This week we've got lots of car news. We've got a sexy new French hatchback. We've got a very silly American pickup truck. We've got an even sillier American pickup truck. And we've got a brown car from Japan. And Lucy Brown as well. We've got all the brown things. Let's get going. Pretty sure that was a 10 out of 10.
I mean, it's never a 10 out of 10, but I'd give that an 8.5 or a 9, which is your best yet.
I was really impressed that I ad-libbed the whole, we've got a brown car and Lucy Brown.
It was good. Also, French hatchback is really hard to say.
French hatchback's hard to say, and I'm just glad I didn't say, and we've got a brown person. So yeah, we've got Lucy Brown. Rachel Hogg is here, and I'm Tim Rodey. We are the DriveTribe Podcast crew. Thank you ever so much for coming back, and hope you've had a good week. I hope you're staying safe. I hope if you can, you've been vaccinated, and I hope you've gone for a walk if you're allowed to outside and taken in some fresh air and possibly seen some ducks and thrown them some bread. But actually, that's bad, isn't it? You're not meant to.
Yeah, you're not meant to feed them bread anymore.
What is it? Frozen peas or something?
I don't know. I've never heard that one.
Oh, I think duck food. What is duck food?
I thought you said dog food. I was like,
I mean, surely you can buy any food. So sure you can buy duck food. You can get bird food. Why not give them that?
That's probably a good idea. Ducks are birds, aren't they?
This is why we have Lucy on the podcast, for wisdom like that.
Oh dear. Yeah, this is a car podcast. Occasionally ducks and other aquatic fowl. But let's get into the car stuff with the news. Perhaps not the biggest bit of news this week, but certainly some of the most exciting news is that DS, the brand that used to be part of Citroën, it still is part of Citroën, but it's just DS now on its own, has launched their new premium hatchback. So this is called the DS4, and it's going to be a rival to the likes of the Audi A3 and the BMW 1 Series. And they're really keen to push themselves up market so they can fight with the Germans, certainly more than they did in 1940. Anyway, it's a very pretty car, this new DS4. It's got big daytime running lights, big grille, and it's got these kind of weird folds and creases down the side of it on the doors, which looks for all the world like, I don't know, someone's got a shopping trolley inside it and accidentally rammed it into the inside of the door skin. It's very pretty, and I'm glad it exists. It kind of looks a bit coupe-ish, and they're going to do what they call a DS4 cross version, where they stick naff bits of black plastic around the wheel arches to give you the hint it can go off-road, when obviously it can't. It's got the whole DS thing. DS has always been about being comfortable and chic. And in terms of comfort, this has got the active scan suspension from, I think it was it the DS7, Rachel? I can't remember. What was the big SUV that the French Prime Minister tools around in?
I like that. I spent 6 months with that and it was fabulous.
Really? I've never driven one.
Yeah, really liked it. Took it to Germany, all sorts.
I'm not going to turn this into a World War II podcast, but
no, don't do it.
So yeah, hopefully this is going to be super comfortable, because it's got a camera that scans the road and then it keys up the suspension. Did the DS7 you had have that?
It was James's. So
sorry.
Yeah, I do not know, but we can ask him.
Nah, that's all right. You're going to be able to get this DS4 on 20-inch wheels. It's got a head-up display. It can have night vision. It's basically got all these options that the Germans did 10 years ago and then kind of slowly forgot about. But hey, it's got a plug-in hybrid, 222 horsepower, I think, plug-in hybrid version. And then there's 3 petrols and a diesel. DS is saying they paid loads of attention to make it quiet and comfortable and refined. And there's not an electric one yet. They say the platform can fit an all-electric version, but they haven't done it yet. And interior looks quite nice as well. It's got screens and it looks very premium. Presumably all the infotainment is utterly baffling, because every French car I've ever driven has the most confusing infotainment system I've ever used. Did you find the DS7 easy to live with, Rachel?
It was massive. But yeah, generally it got loads of attention, which I was really surprised about. People generally seem to really like it. And weirdly, there's a lot of them around Somerset. Not sure why,
Farmers,
but we saw loads of them. Maybe fancy farmers,
fancy
fancy
farmers
French farmers.
with their little clutches and tiny
Yes.
poodles in a bag.
Exactly.
Lucy, you grew up in France, as I think most people probably know. I guess DS probably didn't exist when you were back there, but you quite like them, I guess, being a bit French.
Yeah, I never saw one when I was there, but when I moved over to England and I went to boarding school, one of our teachers had a DS3 and it was black with a little black and white polka dot roof. And I really wanted one when I saw that car. I was like, it's so cute. I really want one. And then I sort of grew out of it within a year. But I think they're quite nice looking cars. I think this one looks really cool. It's not something that I'd go for, but it looks nice. And I think DSs are just quite cool. I know you said chic, but I think there's a little bit of, they're trying to be young, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Nouveau chic. I'm not very good at French.
Nouveau chic.
I don't know.
Is that
New
a
chic.
thing?
I don't know. It is now.
Okay.
King of Style, Tim Rodey proclaims it to be so. But yeah, it is quite cool. And they do. I kind of wish them every success because they've not really done anything since they became a standalone brand, other than the DS7, as far as I can tell. But hey, we will see when it goes on sale, presumably later this year. Next bit of car news is not French. It's very, very American. There's a new Ford F-150 Raptor. So the most important thing you need to know about this is it's based on the new F-150, and Metallica has let Ford use Enter Sandman for the advert.
Excellent.
And apparently, according to Ford, I've actually got a quote here from Ford's chief of communications, Mark Truby, has said, Metallica very rarely let people use their songs commercially, but they're big Raptor fans. So, hey, there we go.
I mean, that's something I've learned today.
Yeah, same. I was doing a bit of research about this. Apparently, Enter Sandman is used by NASA mission control to wake up astronauts on their spaceships and presumably the space station. Fine.
You get so sick of that after sort of a few months on the space station every morning, waking up to that. That'd be horrible.
It would ruin it for you, wouldn't it? It's like if you've ever chosen a song as your alarm tone in the morning, your alarm, you just hate it after like a week, wouldn't you? And it would ruin that song for you forever. Yeah. Do you wake up to music, Lucy?
I wake up to Gradual Birdsong.
Gradual Birdsong.
And my watch taps me awake with haptic, whatever that Apple calls it. And it's actually a great way to, if you haven't tried it, being woken up by your Apple Watch slowly sort of tapping you awake is such a nice way to wake up, because there's no sort of loud noises. You don't get a headache. You don't get stressed out. It's just a slow tapping awake. And it actually wakes you up. You wouldn't expect it to, but it does.
Oh, is it not like a gentle woodpecker, like very gently tapping your wrist?
And it does, you can choose, it doesn't just tap regularly at different intervals. It's sort of a bit random sometimes. And you sort of don't realize, you don't remember waking up. It's just suddenly you're awake and your watch is sort of tapping you. It's a really calm way of waking up.
I like that. That sounds very soothing. I used to have an Apple Watch until I smashed it on a Unimog, but that's a story for a different day. And the thing is, when do you charge it? If you wear it to bed, when do you charge it? Because I always had to put mine on charge overnight because it only lasts, 20 hours or something like that. And then I'm not going to wake up and then charge my watch. I want it charged for the day. I
just charge it during the day. I've got a watch charger by my computer on my desk, so I just pop it on there, and it only takes half an hour to charge. Okay, it's never fully dead. After a full night's sleep and a full day wearing it, it only needs half an hour to get juiced up to full capacity, and then I'm good to go.
Continuing the theme of the Ford F-150 Raptor, Rachel Hogg, what's your wake-up routine?
I love this. It's descended into absolute chaos.
I love it.
I feel like my wake-up routine is not anywhere near as kind of peaceful and calm as Lucy's is. Mine's just alarm goes off and then I accidentally snooze every 10 minutes for a while and then attempt to get up and have a coffee.
That sounds reasonable. Yeah. Mine just involves an alarm on my phone. It's very boring. But anyway, what isn't boring is the chassis components of the new Ford F-150 Raptor.
Yeah.
So again, actually a bit like the DS, this one is very big on computer controlled suspension. It checks the ground and the terrain 500 times a second, and it can change its stiffness in the blink of an eye. It's got cameras all over it. It's a bit lighter, and Ford has made a big deal of the fact it will do 500 miles on a tank of gas. But apparently this is more down to the fact it's just got a really big fuel tank than being especially efficient. But hey, power hasn't really increased. They've not actually said yet, but they've set expectations. It's going to be around 450 horsepower, like the old one from that V6 that is from the Ford GT, vaguely. But they've said there's going to be a more powerful one coming in a year or two, which I think is the Raptor R, something like that, which is probably going to have the 5.2 litre flat plane crank V8 from the Shelby GT 350 or 500 if it's supercharged, and that's going to compete with the Ram 1500 T-Rex or TRX, which is.
I mean, this is a very intense segment. It's like Metallica and like Raptors and yeah.
I just find it really interesting because here, as a British person, we don't get cool pickup trucks. We get diesel things. Even our Raptor, the Ranger Raptor, is a.
I mean, that was so much fun. I had so much fun driving around, even though I literally thought I was going to just smash into everyone, but it wouldn't have mattered because I just would have driven over them in it because it's just huge. So I can't even imagine what the F-150 one's going to be like. It's just so much bigger.
Oh, when I went on the launch of the Ranger Raptor, it was in Morocco back in the days when we could go abroad, and we were just on this beach, all the sand dunes, and they had an F-150 Raptor there on English number plates, or UK, sorry, number plates. And I said to Ford, I'm like, why have you got this? A, why is it in Morocco and making the Ranger Raptor look really small and puny? And why is it on English plates? And he said, oh, we brought one over to the UK to see if it was feasible to sell it in the UK as a left-hand drive car. I took it home first night, couldn't find a single parking space it fitted in. And that was the end of that, really. It is massive compared to anything we can get in the UK, which is a bit of a shame because there's so many cool pickup trucks in America, obviously. And I think they're quite neat. But hey, there we go. Anyway, F-150 Raptor, there's going to be some off-roady options because 80% of Raptor owners take them off-road at least once in a while, according to a very, very good survey Ford has done. I'm not sure how often once in a while is. So there's 37-inch tires on the options list, which will make it really off-roady. I've said my surname too many times. Yeah. Right. Penultimate bit of the news, I've just spat on my laptop, is the world's largest 4x4 is in Dubai and it's going into a museum. This is a bit of a cheat because it's basically a military vehicle called the LARC-LX.
It's catchier than some car names that have been out recently, to be fair.
I mean, it's more memorable than any Lexus that I can remember the name of. I get confused with Lexi. So yeah, it's called the LARC-LX. And if you, like me, are half interested in World War II, the Second World War, there was a thing called the Duck, which was an amphibious infantry carrier thing, which is basically a Jeep that looked like a boat, big, massive thing. And they drive them around London now, painted yellow, and take tourists on the Thames in them.
Oh, it's those. Okay. The ones that set on fire all the time.
Yes, the ones that catch on fire. Yeah. Sorry, Lucy, you're going to say you've been on one?
Yeah, I was going to say that my first time I came to England, went to London, went on one, and my mum told me that they caught on fire quite often, so she made us sit right at the back by the exit.
Brilliant. Right over the engine as well.
Good mum planning, to be fair.
But she didn't know it was rear engine, so actually you might be the first to die. But hey, let's talk of perishing. So anyway, it's basically a massive version of one of those. And someone in Dubai, one of the sheikhs, has got one going to his museum. It's big enough to hold shipping containers or 200 people. And it's got 4 engines, one for each wheel. Each engine, 265 horsepower. Diesel engine powers each wheel. You can do 20 miles an hour on land, 7.5 in water. And it's 19 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 6 meters tall. And they used it in the Vietnam War. It's massive.
Ever so slightly bigger than the F-150.
Only a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can drive tanks off this. I'm not sure you can do that with a Ford pickup truck.
Coming to a video test near you soon.
Yeah, let's get Mike Fernie on one of those. He would love that. Next, very quick bit of news. It's just really a public service announcement. If you want one, Lexus LFA, there's one for sale in America, and it's brown, and it has an orange interior. There's only 1,073 miles on it. Go and check it out if you need one. Apparently, there are still 5 unregistered LFAs for sale, despite the fact that it's not been made since the end of 2012. So despite the fact every listicle about best sounding cars lists an LFA, they didn't sell very well, and they're still not selling very well.
So they only made 500 of them,
Yeah.
full stop, didn't they? But I mean, it was crazy expensive. It was like nearly $400,000 or something when it came out.
I think
And
so.
some dealerships made them even more expensive. And I don't know. It sounds. I mean, I'd love to drive one. It's got 4.8 litre V10, and
Yes.
yeah, and it sounds like a lot of fun. But I can't say I'd want one in brown. But that's just me. I've never been a brown car fan.
So I am. I think there's a thing on Twitter, isn't there? All the boring car journalists that say, car journalists who would never buy a car with their own money say that they would like brown cars. I had a brown Touareg last year, as you might know.
You did?
I liked it, but most of the time it just looked black. So it needs to be the right shade of brown. It needs to be like kind of, you've just melted some butter in a pan at the start of a flapjack recipe, and you've just stirred in some muscovado sugar. It needs to be that kind of shade, I think. Would you agree, Lucy?
I quite like light brown, sort of light browny cars. I know the Lexus is not very dark as browns go. I think if it was a couple shades lighter, sort of grey brown, moleskin, I think it's a nice brown. I thought the
like
Touareg was just, I thought your Touareg was a bit of a boring color because it was so far dark that it was just trying to not be black. So it wasn't actually brown, it was black with a shade of brown.
Yeah, it was a bit like that, and it only ever looked brown when the sun was blasting down on it. Lucy, do you have your Pantone mug to hand?
I do not know.
What shade is your Pantone mug? I can't remember.
I've got quite a few. I've got a variation of yellows, blues, and greens.
There we go. We should get a car done up in your favorite mug Pantone color. Right, I'm going to whistle through 2 more bits of the news. I was lying when I said it was the penultimate bit. Cupra, Spanish sporty arm of Seat, which is no longer part of Seat, apparently, has finally officially confirmed that the Formentor SUV, not an SUV, kind of Leon coupe thing, crossover, is getting...
So well described.
I know, but... Everyone says it's an SUV. I had it in at the end of last year, and it's not an SUV. It's low. It's like you sitting in a Leon. It just looks like one. Anyway, it's getting the 5-cylinder engine from the Audi RS3 officially. So Audi's never given that engine to any of the other Volkswagen Group brands to use, and Cupra is going to be the first one to use it. So 2.5 litre, 400 horsepower. It's going to be called the Formentor something with a 5 in it. I should have looked that up. And a
VZ5.
There we go, VZ5. Or if you're American, VZ5.
VZ5. I kind of like that. Maybe that sounds better. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's kind of moot because they're not getting it, I don't think. So, there we go. Right, last bit of news. I don't really know much about this, but I guess Lucy will. Jimmy Broadbent is a very big gaming YouTuber. He's a really, really lovely bloke. And actually, I think we started working with him probably 3 years ago at DriveTribe when he probably only had 15,000 subscribers. And he's now, what's he on, Lucy? Like 600,000, something like that. He's huge.
Yeah, he's definitely over 500,000.
Yeah, and he's like really big. He does lots of gaming live streams, sim racing. He does lots of silly things with that PC game I've forgotten the name of, where all the cars crash really realistically. BeamNG, that's it. And he's just confirmed he's going to be going racing for real either this year or next, whenever it actually happens, in the Praga R1, which is the mental Le Mans looking carbon thing, which I should really get Mike Fernie to talk about. And it's just good news, really. So go and subscribe to him on YouTube if you haven't, because he's going racing for real. And he's just a lovely bloke who lives in a shed. So
he's so nice.
He is nice, isn't he? Did you go on the shoot with him last year?
I've been on a few shoots with him. He was obviously at the pub when we did the video with James May.
Oh yeah.
I was with him in New York for a Gran Turismo event, and then in Salzburg Gran Turismo event, and then Monaco Gran Turismo event. A lot of Gran
You had
Turismo
a horrible
stuff.
year, didn't you?
Yeah, it was very, very tough.
Was that that must be 2019?
Yeah, 2019, and then we did some work with him in Formula E 2018, and some stuff for Renault in 2017. It might have been actually. So yeah, he's been around for a while, and he's such a nice guy.
Zencastr, haven't I? I'm so sorry. Oh, there we go. I'm back. I'm so sorry. My internet died completely randomly.
I noticed, but I think we're still good. I think we're
okay.
still good.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. How dare you? How dare you?
I know.
Anyway, that brings us to what we call the end of the news. Right, before we get on to talking about the cars we've been driving this week, last week, next week, I just want to talk quickly about something that's a little bit petrol heady, but not very. It's electric scooters. I'm talking about those things that you see the youths racing around London on the pavements or sidewalks on. When I grew up, I inherited a scooter from my mother in the shed. It was a dusty old heavy thing that weighed about 50 kilos that she probably got from her mother. And it had a brake, which was just a bar of metal that you pressed down physically on the back tire and shredded the back tire, which was solid rubber. I didn't really like it because it was heavy and terrifying. But I see lots of people buying electric scooters and they look really fun and they're quite fast. And I think they're also quite illegal to use in the UK. I see my local police here in Surrey in England are always tweeting about if you've got an electric scooter, you basically can't use it in public. You can't use it on the road, and because it's not got a number plate and it's not taxed or insured, and you can't use it on the pavement because it's a threat to humanity, basically. But I think it's a bit of a shame because they look like a really nice, efficient way of zipping around cities. Lucy, this is kind of your thing because you're big into your electric skateboards and all that kind of stuff. Have you got?
Can I just defend?
Go on.
Defend young people because you just made a statement that you see loads of arrogant young people going around London.
I didn't say arrogant. You've added arrogant into that. Go on.
The majority of the people I've seen going around London on electric scooters are really sort of boring looking 35-year-old businessmen in suits with a helmet. Like you see loads of them.
That is fair.
You can't
That
deny
is fair,
that.
actually. Yeah, there was a guy when I used to walk to the train station to come to the DriveTribe office in Chiswick. Every day I'd nearly get taken out by one guy, and it was always the same guy who was one of those guys that's desperately trying to be young and hip, but has 3 kids and should just go with it. Shave your head and stop trying to be cool. James May's got one, hasn't he?
He has. He's got one of those little smaller ones. I mean, you just insulted old people for trying to be young.
I know.
Yeah, he's got a little smaller one, and I've tried it out a few times, and he had to almost teach me how to ride it because I've ridden electric scooters before, but they're the bigger ones that you sort of tend to rent in European cities. So when I tried out his little one, it was all wobbly, and I kept almost crashing, and he had to sort of teach me to ride it around in his bunker before then suggesting I go to the office in it, which I declined because I'm terrified of being killed.
That's fair enough.
I feel like you probably would have been killed by James May though if you'd have crashed into any of his cars or many bikes that he has in the bunker.
True. Or he would have just sat there and laughed for a while.
Or that, yeah, probably more likely.
So why did you have to push it to get it going? Because can't you just ride it like a motorbike where the engine works or the motor works immediately?
You're going to embarrass me on my lack of knowledge of how it works. I think you push it to give it a little kickstart.
Okay, I guess it's easy.
It takes a little bit of it doesn't start. It's not super torquey as you'd expect.
Yeah.
So it's different to the electric skateboard. Electric skateboard, you get on it, torque immediate, you fly off. Whereas this, I think it needs a little bit of momentum or something, because if you just stand on it and click go, it's much heavier, so you just fall over. You need to push so that you don't fall over. If you were being held up with rails or something, you could just go off about pushing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen in real life, does it?
The only time I've ever ridden one was almost a year ago to the day. It was the last ever time I flew on a car launch. It was the BMW M235i Grand Coupe last year. And we got into Lisbon kind of like 3 p.m. or something. We didn't have anything to do till the next day. So me and the video camera guy from Carwow, Jack, that's his name, really nice guy, where we rented some on Uber that were outside our hotel on the river in Lisbon, where the big Golden Gate Bridge ripoff is. And we zoomed up and down for about an hour, and it was great fun. But we instantly just started trying to turn it into a dangerous driving competition and trying to race each other and push each other off. And then we both had cameras and we were trying to film while going along because we thought that'd look really good. It's just really dangerous. They only do about 15 miles an hour, but that's kind of fast enough when you suddenly realize, I think it's an age thing. I suddenly realized I've got no protective clothing on. And even if it's 15 miles an hour, if I fall over, I'm going to graze my elbows. And as a 35-year-old, that kind of terrifies me. I don't want grazers anymore. I left them alone.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you can go up to 30 kilometers an hour at least. Because I think I went about 30, 35-ish kilometers an hour when I went on them in Berlin. I have a big dilemma because I'm terrified of getting run over and things. But every time I go to a European city, I really want to try a little scooter.
It's a good way to see a city.
It's great, but I got quite lucky in a way because I was in Berlin just when it got locked down before COVID properly blew up. And I woke up really early one morning and I thought, I'll go and look around Berlin. And it was empty, completely no one around because of lockdown. So I rented a little scooter and went around so much of Berlin landmarks and there was no cars. I went down the big road towards the Brandenburg Gate, which is I think 6 lanes. And I was the only person there. So I could explore without being killed. It's nice.
Yeah. Oh, I miss Europe. I miss going around cities. Berlin's amazing. It's a fantastic city. If you've never been to Berlin, I saw someone describing it as a dump on a thread on Piston Heads the other day. Don't ever go on Piston Heads. It's full of grumpy old men. Yeah, it's fantastic. The East is all very brutal and like the architecture. I mean, it's very brutal, not just the coffees and the nightclubs probably can be punishing if you want them to be. And West Berlin is beautiful and there's lots of old bits and it's very interesting. There's a photo for anyone watching this. That's the orange Uber scooter I took under that bridge in Lisbon a year ago to the week. I think we've lost Rachel again, haven't we? She's back. She's had enough of this podcast, probably like you listening at home. She's just disappeared. Her face keeps freezing in quite amusing faces, though. So do check this out on YouTube, on Tim Roddy Drive Stuff, to see Rachel Hogg's face freezing. There we go. It's back now.
Can I hear
Rachel, have you ever had a dalliance with an electric scooter?
Just like, oh, there we go. Jesus Christ.
Do not invoke the name of the Lord on my podcast.
No, I'm sorry. It's not my day.
Have you ever used an electric scooter, though?
No.
Good, right. I'm glad we waited for you.
Yeah, that was my contribution to that conversation.
Oh, dear. Right, before we get on to chatting about cars I've been driving, Rachel, have you been doing any ridiculous things for Food Tribe this week that are tangentially related to cars?
Can I relate anything to cars that I've done?
Or we can try and do some bad puns.
Do I say about what I'm recording on Monday on the
Yes.
DriveTribe podcast? Okay. In which case, I'm relaunching the Food Tribe podcast because DriveTribe podcast, I'm really enjoying doing it, but also want to get some food more out there. And I've got a very exciting guest for my first relaunched episode of James May. So James May will be joining me on the Food Tribe podcast. I'm hoping we're going to get together, hang out over Zoom. My Zoom's not going to die. Hopefully my internet's going to be fine. And we're going to have a glass of wine and chat all things food. So obviously I know this is the DriveTribe podcast and obviously all of the car stuff. So I probably won't be talking to him about cars, but obviously as we now know, he is a chef extraordinaire, including winning the celebrity cookbook battle for last year, like against some huge people like Nigella, James Martin, Tom Kerridge, and James May won. So I'm going to be talking all about that.
Is that a competition of sales figures, or is that a competition?
No. Evaluated by a journalist at the Evening Standard, who kind of test them all out, and James May won.
Wow, that's quite something. Well, I started watching James May's cookery series this week. I'm a bit late to the party. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Oh Cook. Haha. And it's one of the funniest things he's done. I'm only 3 episodes in, and I was kind of watching it with like medium expectations, but it's actually really funny. And like his Our Man in Japan series, which if you've not seen from a year ago, please go and watch it. You'll split your sides laughing, and it's very interesting. They leave all his mistakes in the cookery show. So everything he messes up gets left in. And he says, oh, you can edit around that. And they just don't, out of spite. It's really quite funny. And they've got all the publishers of the book, which is an accompaniment to the series, sitting behind the camera, and they're getting involved and basically wondering what the hell they've given him a massive book advance for when he clearly can't cook. So do go and check that out. He makes spam, kind of breadcrumbed spam in ramen.
Cornflaked crumbed.
That's it. Sorry, yeah, it's cornflake crumbs. Have you seen it yet, Rachel?
Yes. Yeah.
Fine. Okay, yeah. So sparman.
Mm.
I'm guessing Rachel was slightly reticent and didn't like it as much as I liked it.
No, I loved it. I just, I'm obviously after my one time of trying spam with James May, I'm still just kind of, I haven't gone back there yet. So I'm just not sure. Maybe sparman is my way to go.
Maybe.
Sparman?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like spam doesn't need to exist anymore because rationing's ended.
I really want to try the sparman recipe, but with chicken. I think sort of chicken coated in cornflakes, maybe with a bit of barbecue sauce, and then sort of ramen bowl. I think that'd be quite nice.
That's basically chicken selects from McDonald's.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a very student recipe.
I like it. I tried McDonald's Katsu chicken nuggets yesterday for the first time.
Oh, how are they?
While sitting in the BMW M5 competition, which I'll speak about in a
minute. We go.
And they were mediocre at best. They were okay. They were crunchy. They were a bit spicy. I didn't try the sweet curry dip. I just used barbecue sauce because stick to what I know, stick to what I like. They were okay.
I was a bit freaked out by them because I assumed they would just be nuggets with a slightly different coating and then a sauce, because Katsu tends to have the breaded chicken and then the sauce.
The sauce,
but
they seem
to have infused them with Katsu flavoring, I guess, because if you eat it without the sauce, because I ate them with ketchup as well and on their own to test, and you can taste Katsu sauce
consumer
without
testing.
Very thorough. You can taste it.
I ate them without the sauce, and I couldn't taste any katsu-ness, but I've not been able to smell or taste anything for days. So,
I
jest. I'm fine. So anyway, these nuggets were being eaten inside BMW M5 Competition. I filmed a video of it. It's going to go on Tim Rodey Drive stuff next week, probably. I've edited it sort of, but it's something more interesting to do first. It's a very big, it's not very big actually, it's a very good car. I hated it for 4 days until I drove it really fast and I liked it and did some skids in it. So it's 625
95% of Tim Rodey content.
Hey, I'm rubbish. I'm rubbish at skids, and it made me feel okay. So obviously it's 4-wheel drive, 625 horsepower, but the 4-wheel drive has got 3 modes. It's got normal, really grippy, you can give it to your nan and she'll be okay. And it's got 4-wheel drive sport, which you give to Tim Rodey and he
it's sort of okay. It's fine.
No, he wasn't the first time. He was quite scared the first time because the back end skidded out much, much quicker and further than I thought it would before the electronics stopped me from crashing. And then I thought that's quite fun. Did that again for 5 days and it was good. And then there's rear wheel drive mode, which I didn't do because it turns all of the stability control and traction control off. And I like my job. I like my job, and I like having a driving license and not owing BMW £120,000 for the car, which is what it cost. So yeah, it was downsides of it. It's too firm, even in comfort mode. It's got the adaptive dampers from the M8 Grand Coupe, which I've not driven, and it's just jiggles about. I said it's like, you know, when you're on a plane that's taxiing to the runway, and it's going over all the lumps and lines in the tarmac, and you can just hear every single one. It's like that, but in a car. So Yeah, it's nice when you start driving it like an asshole, but the whole point of it is it's a luxury wafty saloon, and it doesn't luxuriously waft. It just goes really fast everywhere. So I'd get an RS6 probably, but hey, there we go. Mike Fernie has just sent me a message on our internal Slack saying, "Have you ever driven an Elise?" Yes, I have. There we go. Right, great content.
That's like reader questions, but the reader questions are for people you work with.
Yes, and like people listening to this, I can't even see them or hear them. I've also driven the new Jaguar F-Type. There's a video of that going up tomorrow. Gives away what day we're doing this.
That looks fabulous.
Do you like the way it looks? Because this, I'm talking about
Yeah.
the kind of the update came out a year ago now. Really, I'm very late to the party on this. Yeah, it looks better in the metal than it did in the pictures, and I'm kind of used to it now. It looks a bit more mainstream. I think it's almost a bit Aston Martin-y ish.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's really different to drive to the old one. It's much more gentle suspension-wise, and you can actually floor it and it doesn't terrify you anymore because the rear suspension actually works with the road rather than skipping off it.
Nice.
And it makes a wicked noise. I drove the 575 horsepower V8 one because of course I did.
You did.
And yeah, it's not as fast as the M5 and it's not as playful as the M5, but it's really nice fun, just like driving down these country roads that I didn't know near Coventry where Jaguar are based, and with the roof down, and froze my head off, my bald little head. And it's a lovely thing. It's shame I was driving a 60th Heritage one, which is 120 grand. Don't get that one. Just get the normal 100 grand one. Save yourself some money, rich people. And it was painted in the same color as the Jaguar E-Type, and it's a color they've not used since the E-Type. So Sherwood green, which is a really flat green. It's not metallic at all, and almost absorbs lots of light. It was quite nice, actually. It looked very vintage, but on an F-Type. So there we go. New F-Type review coming soon to Tim Roady Drive Stuff and on DriveTribe when I can be bothered to write it up, which will be a while. I've still not written the R8 up yet. I'm a terrible journalist. Lucy Brown, do you like Jaguar F-Types?
I like the new one a lot more. I think the headlights made a lot of difference. And I much prefer. I really like the color of the one you drove. I watched your video and I thought that was a really nice thing. It must have been quite hard to color grade that.
Yes, thanks for pointing out the fact that I found it really hard to color grade that.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I didn't know that you did. I just assumed because it's a slightly odd color. Yeah, I think it looks really nice. It sounds pretty nice as well. I used to always prefer the look of an Aston Martin Vantage sort of thing, but I'm starting to be won over towards the F-Type. I think the headlights make a big difference for me. It looks less sort of boring, I guess. They're sharper.
Yeah, I think you make a good point that both the Aston Vantage and the F-Type now have gone for a much more modern look. And yeah, I like the way the Aston looks, but it's not very Aston-y, whereas I think Jag can get away with it a bit more. A slightly more youthful look, a slightly more modern look. And Hog, have you had any F-Type experiences?
Very, very briefly. Probably, God, when was it? Three years ago? Phil Huff, who's another motoring journalist, had one for the week, and I was round at his and he said, off you go. So I just took it out for a little bit, and it was I obviously didn't get as much of a chance to drive it properly as I would have liked, but I don't know what that was.
No.
Unknowing, but yeah.
That's the weird. Go on.
So it was just brief and very relaxed and calm, which is not how you're meant to drive an F-Type.
Was it the V8 that you were driving?
Yeah.
So I used to like the V6 because it had a really nice cultured howl to it, but the emissions have killed it off. So you can only buy a 4-cylinder one for £54,000 or a V8 one, and there's a medium 450 horsepower V8 one for 75 grand, and then the full 575 horsepower one for 100 grand. But apparently the 450 horsepower one, it's rear wheel drive, I think, or you can get it in rear wheel drive now. And apparently the steering is not as good as the more powerful one. I'm reliably informed by Matt Robinson.
It does feel like there are quite, in the F-Type, there's big steps between the levels of it, with quite a few cars. That's a really badly made point. No. It just feels like there is like a big jump between each one rather than in quite a lot of other bits.
Yeah, Yeah, it's like
That was so
yeah,
badly phrased. I
You
hope
can
you know
have
what
a-
I'm trying to say.
I do. One F-Type is like you can have a 2-liter 4-cylinder or a 5-liter V8.
Yeah.
But it's like the
Put
Mustang.
much more succinctly than me. I can't speak today.
It's like succinctly. But yeah, no, as a good point. I was going to say something. Oh yeah, when you did your driving it properly raises an eyebrow thing. As a journalist, it's always a bit weird because you always want to say it feels different when you're driving it like a knob, and that's kind of like trying to find euphemisms for, I was on the limit, or I was when you're pushing along, or when you're pressing on.
I hate pressing on. Oh,
Like all sound horrible, and they're really wanky, and I dislike all those phrases. So I have just settled for driving like a twat. Yeah,
spirited driving.
Ragging the hell out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, ragging.
Thrashing ass off it. There we go. There's a bit of Yorkshire for Rachel Hogg. Let me know if you want me to teach you how to speak like a real Yorkshire person. I can do that. Anyway,
Have you ever even been to Yorkshire?
Actually, I'll tell you what. Many of my family holidays as a child were in Yorkshire, in the Pennines.
Okay. Fine. I love that that's only going to be on the video rather than on the podcast. No, it'll just be a minute of silence while you're sticking your middle finger up at me.
That's why you have to subscribe to Tim Rodey Drive Stuff on YouTube. Before we go, have to give a shout out to Lucy Brown DriveTribe. Go and check her YouTube channel out. What was the last thing you posted, Lucy?
It was a very, very, very beginner's guide to what is a Ronin / what is a gimbal.
The DJI Ronin, that is, now available from DJI.com. Tim Rodey. No, I don't have an affiliate code for DJI. But yeah, if you'd like to get smooth video shots with your camera, you need one of these things. And they are magic, but they're a bit of faff. You can do
if you're
video.
looking to buy one, I definitely wouldn't recommend my video. My video is very much for the people who don't know what a gimbal is and sort of what it does. If you want to buy one, then go and look at some much more detailed reviews. Peter McKinnon's done a great one. Go look at that, because I wouldn't trust myself to give recommendations on what you buy.
He's got his own range of ND filters, I found out.
Yeah, he's also got a Ranger. No, he's got a Raptor, and he's about to buy the new Raptor.
Oh, there we go. YouTuber chat. And Rachel Hogg probably hasn't done anything for her YouTube channel still.
No, but she will do when she has a chat with James May next week, because that's going to go on the channel.
Yeah, and then you'll have 1 million subscribers by this time next week.
I hope so. I know. I'd love to overtake you with my 3rd video. That would be nice.
You will. So go and check out Rachel Hogg Food Tribe on YouTube as well. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching, listening to this nonsense. It's been a bit more nonsensey than usual this week. Lots of tangents.
I know, I feel like it has. I'm really sorry. No, I'm going to blame myself for that, my lack of words.
I quite liked it. I don't just want to talk about cars the entire time. That'd be a boring life, wouldn't it? Anyway, thank you ever so much for listening. I've been Tim. I've been Rachel.
And I've been Lucy.
And the outro music is delayed because I've got another tab open. There we go.
So professional as ever.
Oh dear.
How many weeks do you think it'll take before we can get Lucy to have a little boogie along to this?
I don't want anyone to dance this music, because since you pointed out she's saying bad boys, I feel a bit creepy. Creeped out, rather. I always feel creepy.
I mean, the biggest question is, where did Jonathan get the vocals?
I thought we decided it was his wife.
I think it probably was.
Way. No way.
That's my favourite bit.
Wish I had hair. We don't need this bit. This bit can go. There we go. Bye, everyone.